All right, hello everyone. My name is Caitlin Muldoon and I work at Virginia Tech in facilities. Progressing. No, not changing slides.
No, it's sometimes. Oops, sorry.
I don't know why it does this, but it's like you have to click into the.
Oh,
There it is.
there we go. Perfect, thank you. So I'm in facilities, but I'm specifically in the site and infrastructure and development department. A lot of words that basically just mean we help with the construction projects on campus, which if you're around campus very much, you know that there's always a lot going on. Our overall goal in our department, we like to say, is to ensure compliance and minimize and mitigate adverse effects of land development. So those construction projects that I'm talking about, that's developing land, changing land. We do that by implementing effective stormwater management BMPs, best management practices. They're all over campus. We have over 98 BMPs on campus to help control those adverse effects. And we're required to do this through DEQ. So we're regulated by the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. That's who I report to annually. I have an annual report that goes out to them every October 1st. It's a 5-year permit. So every 5 years, we're looking at changes to that permit and what we need to do to control stormwater pollution, education and outreach, things like that to, in general, protect water quality and focus on keeping our waterways as clean as possible. Some of my overall duties include education and outreach. So things like this event here today, just getting the general word out there about, you know, that storm drain on the side of the road, that's draining to Stroubles Creek or the duck pond. That's not something everybody knows. I have a feeling a lot of you here realize that and know that. You see the markers on the storm drains and you know that it would be a problem if something ended up in that storm drain that wasn't storm water. But that's not something that a lot of people know, especially contractors. That's can be a big thing that we have to push and educate them and make sure they know about. Site inspections, another huge thing that my department does. We do active construction inspections as well as post-construction inspections. So if a project is under construction, those inspections are obviously going to look a lot different. We're going to be making sure that sediment is staying on site. Silt fences that are going to control that sediment from getting to our waterways are up and look good. Construction entrances are a big thing that can control the pollution from leaving the site. Those are some of the things that we look at and inspect when a project is in construction. Post-construction inspections are a little bit different. That's when we're going to go out and we're going to look at those BMPs, the stormwater ponds, the bioretentions, filteras, all different types of BMPs that are going to help mitigate that pollution. We're going to be inspecting those to make sure they're functioning properly. Things that can cause them to not function properly are things like litter, just general sediment buildup over time. As they're taking in this polluted water, the layers can become impeded and we can't drain water anymore and they're no longer functioning properly. So we're going to make sure that they're doing their job, removing that pollution as effectively as possible. I also operate 2 industrial stormwater permits for Virginia Tech. So completely separate from the MS4, the municipal separate storm sewer permit that I operate. There is a permit for the quarry. So the Virginia Tech quarry, not everyone knows we have our own quarry, but we do. That's where all the Hokie stone on every single building comes from. And with just the general operation of running a quarry, there's a lot of exposed earth and dirt and a lot of potential to pollute downstream waterways. So we have an industrial permit to be able to do that and to ensure that we aren't degrading any water quality downstream. The second industrial permit that I help operate is at the powerhouse. Powerhouse is right in the middle of campus, if you're unfamiliar. And it used to be, in my opinion, more of a risk because we used to burn coal and keep coal on site. And that the potential for that to get in our waterways and degrade water quality would be pretty high. We no longer have coal on site, so that can help. But we still have to remain under certain levels for things like TSS, total suspended solids in our water samples that we take twice a year there. At the quarry, we're looking at TSS as well, and we have to sample 4 times a year there. So it's more frequent that we have to sample there. Just the nature of what we're doing, the potential to impact waterways. Another big aspect of my duties at Virginia Tech is illicit discharge detection and elimination. So let's say we haven't had rain for 2 weeks, kind of like right now. If I went and inspected an outfall that was discharging straight to Stroubles Creek, a waterway, I would expect to see no water coming out. We want that to be dry. We haven't had any rain, shouldn't be any flow coming out. If for some reason I discovered that there was flow coming out, we were discharging something to the waterway, that would mean that there is potentially an illicit discharge. Everything should be dry. There's no water in the system right now. Where's that water coming from? So then we get to become investigators and try and track that down, figure out where it's coming from. Some things that I've experienced while I've been at Virginia Tech, we've had some issues with concrete washout from like contractors on projects. When I first started, we found suds in the creek, like real soapy suds water, and we tracked that to a dining hall. There was a cross connection with a dining hall. They weren't discharging to sanitary sewer, they were actually discharging to the storm sewer system. So we were able to figure that out and get that connection fixed so it no longer happened. Just general, we get, phone calls and reports of things that are seen in the waterways that need to be reported and relayed to my department. That can be anything from, the water looks really dirty, kind of looks like chocolate milk. We need to figure out, is that just a normal occurrence because we just had a really big storm, or has something failed upstream that we need to figure out what's going on? Concrete washout's a big one. You'll usually see cloudy water in that instance. We get those calls. You could get a report of just a foul odor, a smell, something that you have to track down and figure out where that's coming from. Those can be a little bit harder to find, especially if there's not something visual that you can see. Fish kills, something that we get randomly. Somebody encounters several dead fish in the duck pond or Stroubles Creek, then we're going to need to figure out what's going on, what's causing those fish to die, what's in the water that is harming them. Those are just some examples of things I've experienced since I've been at the university. So in regards to that, I decided I wanted to start a Streamkeeper program. So Stroubles Creek, if you're not familiar, is the creek that goes under the duck pond or under the drill field into the duck pond and then back out of the duck pond. And for me at the university, Stroubles Creek is my main focus. It's the water that I'm most concerned about. All my attention goes into protecting that waterway. If I was in the town of Blacksburg or Christiansburg, Montgomery County, I would have several streams and waterways that I would be responsible for. But for me at the university, it's Stroubles Creek. That's my focus. I get to put all my attention there and try to keep that as clean as possible. So my idea behind the Streamkeeper program was an individual would go out several times a year. If you've ever heard of the Adopt a Highway program that VDOT has started a long time ago, that was kind of where I came up with the idea and thought we could kind of mimic. But my thought was that we would use students for this, that would be all volunteer based, and they would kind of have, responsibility of a certain reach of the stream. They could be that could kind of be their goal, would be to keep that section of Stroubles Creek as protected and as clean as possible. In the long term, I would even like to have some signage with whoever is responsible for that reach, that section, with their name on it, letting everyone know, hey, this section of Stroubles Creek is protected by such and such, and this is what they're supposed to do. Just to, give some notoriety to these individuals that are volunteering their time and putting in the effort. So with that, the responsibilities that would come with the Streamkeeper program would include weekly visual checks. So my idea of this being a student, they're going to be on campus already. they're potentially gonna be walking right by the section of creek that they're gonna be responsible for, right by the duck pond. They're more boots on the ground than I ever can be. I can't be out there daily checking on the creek. But they're going to class, they're on campus all the time. If they can just give a quick check when they walk by, they see something that's a red flag, let myself, my department know, we can go out there and investigate and figure out what's going on. Even more intense than that would be quarterly inspections. So this would be, not only would it be that visual, but we would also be taking some physical aspects as well. So going out with a water sample and a probe, to be able to check things like temperature, pH, conductivity, salinity. These are just things that we've noticed over, I guess I've been with the university for 6 years now. These are some of the things we've noticed that are causing either these fish kills or these spikes that we're seeing. So these are things that we would like to monitor, know what's happening in the waterways certain times a year. And then right now, the section that we're going to be focusing on, the Streamkeeper program that the Sustainability Department interns have been helping me with, is the central branch. So right when it comes out from under the drill field to the duck pond. It's not a very long section, but that's what we're going to be focusing our attention on first. And ironically enough, there are plans for this section of the creek to have a really large restoration project. So I kind of chose this section because I would like to see if we get some data points now before it's restored, where the banks might be failing. We haven't really done anything to protect it. No riparian buffers to keep pollution out of the waterways. So we have a nice before. We're going to get some numbers and see what the water quality numbers are telling us now. And then once the restoration project is complete, we will have some after numbers. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about the quarterly inspections and what specifically conductivity tells you about the health of the stream? Can you repeat the question for the new?
Yeah, so the question was if I could talk more about the quarterly inspections and what some of these certain aspects would mean for the water quality. And we chose the parameters basically based on the probe kit that we were able to get at a pretty economical value, what they could pick up. So these aren't necessarily parameters that we felt like we needed to measure, but they're just what the probe can tell us. And maybe as we start to see trends, as we take more and more samples, that'll give us some more insight into what we should or shouldn't be measuring.
Oh, more conductivity you have in water, and like the still water has almost no conductivity.
Oh, okay. So it's a measure of sedimentation.
Well, it's a measure of how electricity flows through the water, but the
Right.
more dissolved solids you have in it, the better electricity.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so we're gonna basically be watching for trends. We want to see if we see anything that is seasonal potentially, something of that nature. That's our overall goal. But like I said, that's what led me to this reach of stream, was the fact that there's a proposed restoration project. There's several parts of Stroubles Creek on campus that we could have chosen, but I went with this one to start with because I want to see those before and after numbers if at all possible. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's a little bit small, but this is the blank inspection form that our current Streamkeeper is using. We have chosen a Streamkeeper. She's a student at Virginia Tech in the Biological System Engineering Department. And she has went out for one inspection this semester so far, and she's going to keep doing those quarterly for us, which is really going to be helpful and beneficial. But general, just nothing super fancy. It's on an iPad. She can take it out with her to the creek when she's out there. And since this is all volunteer based, we didn't want to deep dive too much, but you know, date, weather, visual inspection of trash, things of that nature. And then all of those parameters that the probe is able to pick up, like I was talking about. So we had our first inspection. There's just a general picture of what the water quality looked like on October 21st. pH reading of 8, temperature 15.4, salinity 542 parts per million. You can see those values there, which was all picked up by the probe. So it's a single one reading probe. She takes one grab sample. Nothing super fancy, but that's what we feel like would work for this volunteer-based situation. And my idea, so we have this reach that we're already sampling. My idea is to do this on several other reaches. So we've got Webb Branch that also comes into the duck pond further up West Campus Drive. There's a section of Stroubles Creek before the drill field by Surge Building. So there's several sections that we're gonna hopefully be able to start adding Streamkeeper program to. It's gonna be more volunteers that we would be able to utilize and educate and get involved in the program. But the more data we can see, because say we find an issue here on Central Branch, then if we already have someone inspecting down near the Surge Building before the drill field, we can go look at their data and see if they found something as well. It might not necessarily work out that they're inspecting on the same exact day, but we can kind of get a ballpark and an idea to kind of tell the story of what's happening. That's my last slide. Yeah, that's my last slide. So if anyone has any questions, I'm ready to answer those. Yeah.
Well, sometimes we have a lot of rain and sometimes we don't. So there's no depth measurement because you think the concentration would be greater if it's less water. So I don't know how they exactly read that.
The depth,
I know they take a sample.
like depth of the creek.
Yeah, I mean, this, obviously in that picture, it's a very shallow depth right now, but sometimes it's high. It might be muddy. So when they do the sample, do they go down 2 inches, 3 inches, 6 inches?
So
It's impossible to be the same every month.
a grab sample has a specific procedure. A grab sample that you take with a bottle has a specific procedure when you're taking the sample. I don't know if it's a specific depth, but you rinse out the cup and then you dump it out, fill it again so that you're not getting any contamination, like scooping from the bottom. Is that kind of what you're, like rocks and
Well,
dirt?
Look at that, it'd be hard enough to get something off the bottom, depending on how big the cup.
There's also sections of the creek that are like pools, so where they're deeper. And that might be feedback that I get from the Streamkeeper if
I've
she
never
is
done that, so-
having that issue. But so far, I don't think she's had any issue getting her sample. I've never seen that section of Stroubles Creek get so dry that I didn't feel like a sample could be taken.
Yeah, and the other thing is the TDS, that's total dissolved solids.
Mhm.
Can you describe what the proposed improvements will entail? To that area of the stream?
They aren't final yet, they're still in the planning phases, but improved riparian buffer, so we're not mowing right up to the stream is definitely an idea. Better walkways and access as well. I think those are some of the big improving, meanders of the stream is ideally what's gonna be added as well. No daylighting yet, unfortunately.
Well, it's a lovely area. I mean, it could be enhanced in some.
I agree, yes, it's an underused area and resource.
Sad for saying now as far as the.
Well, we've only taken one sample, so we don't really have much to compare to. In that specific section, I have done microinvertebrate testing, and it's been quite a year or quite a while since I've done one of those samples. But overall health of the stream from those microinvertebrates said that the water was pretty good.
Pardon this question, I was wondering if you'd consider taking multiple samples at the same site or multiple samples at different sites along the.
Had not considered that. Yeah, so the question would be if we would consider taking multiple samples, even just in a reach or a stretch where the Streamkeeper is responsible for. And I think that's a good question, a good point, and something that could definitely give us more data and more information. Not something we've added so far, but in the future, I think that's a great idea to grow the program.
How do you control the timing for taking samples? And this is one issue. The other one is, it's great that you're doing the job at the university, it's not good, upstream. But upstream, we have a lot of sediment fees that I just for one of the developers here, almost 30 times have complained to DEQ. And when the town would be here, calls the sediment as a color. And the DEQ says we have shown jurisdiction and the town doesn't do its job. What else? Is it sometimes?
Okay, so the first question, the timing of the samples, so we don't really have a control over the timing. It's up to the volunteer when they have the time, but it's within that quarter. So we've broken the year out into 4 quarters. So as long as they're getting their inspection, their sample taken within that quarter. If we find that we want to be more specific with the time frame down the road, that might be something that we add. As far as Town of Blacksburg, set upstream issues with sediment input. The Town of Blacksburg has a separate MS4 permit, just like I spoke to. Virginia Tech is their own MS4. The Town of Blacksburg has their own MS4 permit, and they would be required to abide by DEQ's regulations as well. I don't have any control over that, unfortunately. And so being the university, we're kind of like the donut hole within the Town of Blacksburg. So everything around us does impact our water quality as well. I do work very closely with them. A lot of our education and outreach is overlapped, and we try to partner up as much as possible. But I know they're talking about a much larger, more expansive area. So I know it's difficult.
Comments made about working with the town on their separate MS4. If you're expanding from this single place where on the Virginia Tech campus to some of the branches that are coming in, is there any talk of partnering with the town and trying to gather samples just further upstream to further pinpoint where areas of problem might be? And a related question, you said you chose this kit because it was relatively affordable to get some data that you thought would be helpful for decision making, or at least planning restoration efforts. What is the relative cost? Like this gentleman here was asking about multiple sampling, would that blow up your budget, or are we talking like $25 kit, $200 kits? What are we looking at here?
So the question was in regards to sampling further upstream, and then also what was our budget or what were we looking at for taking these samples? My goal when I was searching for a probe was under $100. So that's what I started with and where I went, especially if we're going to be getting probes for several Streamkeepers. I wanted it to not be something that, was going to be $1,000 that we would be spending a lot of money on. And we're putting these in the hands of students, which can kind of, maybe not be the smartest thing if you're going to spend a ton of money on it. So that was my idea and where I went with the goal of keeping it under $100. But it wouldn't be super hard to add because it is, not that expensive. The problem would be getting students or volunteers that wanted to go farther away from campus if we wanted to add more sampling sites. I know I've worked very closely with Montgomery County, Town of Blacksburg. I know they would be very excited and happy to have someone monitoring their sections of stream as well. So if this program is something that grows and expands to that, that would be amazing and lovely. And I know it would be widely accepted by them.
I'm sure everyone here, a lot of people know that the Master Naturalists do a lot of stream assessments right now, regularly. I'm not sure they do everything that's on your list. And I don't think anyone does it on campus, but I know that we've got a pretty strong group in that volunteer corps. And we also have people here that can be the trainers, so you don't have to anymore leave to be trained. So I wonder if maybe they should be looking at using a kit like this when they do their stream monitoring. And then that would that help? Are you looking at something like that?
Yeah, so the question was involving the master naturalist work that's already being done to monitor streams, if that could be beneficial to join together and work together. And yeah, definitely, I don't see why, there could definitely be some training there that could be utilized for the students. I think that would be a great connection that could be made. I think you're right. I don't know of anyone from the Master Naturalist group that is already working in this area. Or maybe,
We could get that information too.
okay,
Because we have, I think there's a team of at least 8 that are actively, and I know they do a couple of places on Stroubles Creek. And last night, coincidentally, we had for a chapter meeting from Patricia Gillespie talking about Crab Creek,
okay,
which
yeah,
is the same stuff
Yep.
as you, only it's what Christiansburg is doing.
exactly.
So it would be nice to make a pool of information more connected. Is it all?
Yes, great ideas. All right,
Could we borrow this kit, maybe, and then take the data you need, and then give it to you, or is there any way that that is possible?
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
down
it
the
could
road.
be a rentable situation. That could, yeah, like, kind of like check it out and bring it back. But yeah, that could definitely be an idea.
Just something to consider.
Right. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to turn it over to the intern group now to talk about some more of their projects they're doing through the sustainability department. But thank you all so much for listening and your questions.
Hi guys, we're with the Office of Sustainability on campus and we are all water interns on the water team. So a little bit for our agenda today, we're going to go over our introductions, talk a little bit about the Office of Sustainability background, talk about the climate action commitment and the case committee and water subcommittee, and then talk about the program that we're all involved in under the Office of Sustainability. A little bit more about the Streamkeeper program, touching more on that, and then our current project that we're working on, the 16 Frogs walking tour. So a little bit about me. My name's Peyton. I'm the team lead for the water team. I'm a senior at Tech, majoring in environmental science with minors in Blue Planet, which is the science of water, and crop and soil sciences. I'm from Yorktown, Virginia, and this is my first year with the internship.
My name is Leilani Hyatt. I'm the communications representative for our team. I'm a senior majoring in environmental science and minoring in geosciences and wetland science. I was born in Tucson, Arizona, and this is my second year with the program.
My name is Rose Harvey. I'm a senior studying ecological restoration with a minor in Spanish. I'm from Roanoke, Virginia, and this is my first year as an intern.
And we do have 2 more members that we wanted to highlight who unfortunately couldn't make it today. This is Avery. She's a senior in chemical engineering with minors in green engineering and sustainable biomaterials. And this is her second year with the program. And then our 5th member is Hannah, and she's also a senior majoring in environmental conservation and society with minors in forestry and biodiversity conservation. She was born in Clarksville, Tennessee, and this is her 3rd year with the program.
Hi, I'm Christina Cook. I'm the Sustainability Program Coordinator for the Office of Sustainability, and I've been helping to mentor the water interns last year and this year. And I've also been the liaison for the Office of Sustainability with Site and Infrastructure, where Caitlin works. So a little bit about the Office of Sustainability background. We were established in June 2009, and we work to coordinate programs for campus sustainability, oversee implementation of the Virginia Tech Climate Action Commitment and the Sustainability Plan. We monitor annual electricity and other energy use and GHG emissions. We work with faculty and departments to develop programs that utilize the campus as a sustainable laboratory. And we also coordinate communication regarding campus sustainability initiatives and programs to the university community and external audiences. So a little bit about the Virginia Tech Climate Action Commitment. It has an overarching goal of carbon neutrality by 2030, and it's supported by 14 other goals, both infrastructure and operation-based and behavior-based as well. And it was approved by the Board of Visitors in March 2021. And it was pushed for by students following protests in the fall of 2019. And it was a revision of the 2013 Climate Action Commitment, which was supported by President Sands. So as part of shared governance at Virginia Tech, we have one of our committees for Virginia Tech is the Climate Action, Sustainability, and Energy Committee. And the charge for that committee is to provide guidance to the university administration on implementation of the university's climate action commitment and opportunities to enhance Virginia Tech's pursuit of environmental quality and social sustainability. And the committee makes recommendations regarding the application of policies, infrastructural and operational changes, educational strategies and modifications, and other steps intended to foster broad engagement with the university's environmental goals. This is part of my job is to administrate the case committee. And within the committee, there are 10 subcommittees that cover all of the aspects of the climate action commitment implementation. And one of those subcommittees is the water subcommittee, which all of our water interns are members of, and several people who are in this audience. And Leilani's going to say a little bit more about water subcommittee, but I know the question about connecting master naturalists and other community members with this initiative would we welcome you to the water subcommittee because community members are also welcome. We can work out the logistics of projects like that. So I'll turn it over to Leilani.
Cool. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the water subcommittee, which we're all members of, along with some grad students, faculty, and like Christina said, community members. So we meet once a month just to conceptualize sustainable water usage and try to come up with proposals that we can bring to the case committee. So the charge for the water subcommittee is we're working to improve water sustainability on campus through collaborative leadership. We're discussing topics related to water infrastructure like utility and usage, water resources like conservation and quality, and then water policy.
So a little bit about the Office of Sustainability's internship program. There are 4 teams total with about 5 members on each. We have the energy team, food team, waste team, and the water team, which is us. And some of those goals of the internship program are to create and work on projects that focus on sustainability around campus in the town of Blacksburg, collaborate with other teams within the office as well as outside groups and organizations, and to promote sustainable practices in education through tabling, social media, hosting events, and other things. This picture is from one of our tabling events that we did with the Sustainable Transportation Fair at the beginning of the semester.
Yes, we'll talk a little bit about our projects here in a second, but the other teams also have projects that they're working on. The energy team is working on a freezer challenge to promote sustainable cold storage and management in like labs around campus. The food team is partnering with dining services to implement a new reusable to-go container program. And the waste team is promoting campus race to zero waste by raising student awareness and engagement in proper waste sorting.
So I'll walk you through what our team did last year to give you a view of what the internship teams are doing. The year always starts with orientation, and so this is a chance for all of the interns and the faculty with the Office of Sustainability to get together and mingle, and we learn about what our projects are going to be for the rest of the year. It's nice because we're mostly working within our own teams, and so it's a really great opportunity for us to get to know the other interns. We table at Gobbler Fest, which is a really good opportunity for us to reach out to a lot of the student body because so many students are there. And so we get to talk about what the office is doing and how students can get involved with sustainability on campus. We meet weekly, our meetings are on Tuesdays. And so the bulk of our internship last year was creating our Streamkeeper program, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. And then towards the end of last year, we worked on Earth Week. So every team comes up with an event to do for Earth Week. Ours was leading a Stroubles Creek tour. And so we took a bunch of people on a tour of seeing what our Streamkeeper program was doing. And we also did a duck pond cleanup. We cleaned up a bunch of trash. This was starting last year. We picked up a lot of trash. There was a lot in the duck pond. And we presented at the Call Showcase, which is the Climate Action Living Laboratory. And so all of the internship teams presented a poster on what we were doing. And so we talked about our Streamkeeper program and how it connects to the climate action commitment. And yeah, it was a good year. Okay, so about our Streamkeeper program, I know that Caitlin touched on this earlier, but it's really just great to have eyes on the ground looking at the stream instead of just like a bunch of official people saying, yeah, Stroubles Creek, it's there. It's really good to just like be actually collecting that data so that hopefully we can have a database that we can refer back to in the future. Okay, so a little bit about our creation process, and Caitlin talked about this. There was a fish kill. A bunch of people were like, hey, there's fish that are dead in the duck pond. What's going on with that? That's not good. And so it was elevated up to Tim Sands, and the idea was brought to the Office of Sustainability to create a program. And so when that was given to us, we were like, oh, this is so cool, but how exciting. And so we spent the bulk of our fall semester last year doing a bunch of research on Stroubles because there's historic documents, there's stuff in the library, there's scientific reports about Stroubles, but all of this information is just sort of strewn out along, like around the internet. And so we tried to condense all of that into one source, which will later be listed like under the water subcommittee's like database so that this can be a one-point access for everybody to just read about Stroubles Creek. We met with site and infrastructure development people like Caitlin, and we met with Cully Hession from the Stream Lab to just learn more about Stroubles, what's going on, and give us more information about it. We searched for a faculty sponsor to lead our program, and then we started looking for an applicant. So we created a position and released that out into the world. And we were really excited because we had a lot of people who seemed really interested in getting involved with the programs. We reviewed their applications, we picked our Streamkeeper, and now the program is in its first year.
So this is Clara. She is the Streamkeeper. She's one of my classmates in ecological restoration, and then she's also majoring in environmental resources management as well. And I got a quote from her about why she wanted to be the Streamkeeper. She says, "The Streamkeeper opportunity allows me to use my knowledge of water quality to give back to the community and further my understanding of freshwater ecosystems." So yeah, she's really cool.
So a little bit about the Streamkeeper program this fall and what we're doing. Like Caitlin mentioned, we're focusing on data collection since this is our first semester having a Streamkeeper. At the beginning of the semester, the water team created an inspection sheet, which is what Caitlin showed earlier, for Clara to fill out when she goes and takes samples. We are also trying to get signage, and we are completing a green request for proposal through Virginia Tech to hopefully expand the program, and that's going to consist of mainly trying to get more probes in order to have more Streamkeepers since they are not cheap. So we're going to try to get that, and then also signage, like Caitlin mentioned, to just have like a protected by sign or just have information about Stroubles on it. And then we will hopefully end up collaborating on a duck pond cleanup with Clara and hopefully some other student organizations and students as well.
Okay, so our Streamkeeper program is one small part of like a really big moving picture. I'm sure that a lot of you are familiar with the big plant that has been going on since 2019, working to just increase the riparian buffer along Stroubles Creek, both near the like Cadet Jungle Gym, which is what they did last year, and then a lot of work near Boxer apartments. They put in a lot of trees and shrubs. I've been there since I started at school here, and it's just a really great opportunity for students to get involved with the program. And like Peyton mentioned, we're working on a green request for proposal, which is a program where students can bring proposals to the university about problems that they have with sustainability, like, hey, maybe we should have more bike racks here, or we should have more water bottle filling stations. And so then the students' ideas will get funding for that. And so our team is working on a proposal to increase the Streamkeeper program. I know that there was a question about how we can get more people out there. And so we're trying to get funding for more probes and having more portions of the stream that we can be working on, and then hopefully getting signs out there, like Caitlin said, just to increase awareness about the program. And yeah. And so this is a picture of Stroubles now. This is very different from how it looked last year because they're actually letting the grass grow out along the stream, which is like a really big thing. They're not just cutting it all down. And so hopefully this will be the worst of it, and then it'll just get better from here so that we can have a healthier stream.
All right, so our other project that we're working on for next semester is the 16 Frogs walking tour. So I'm sure many of you have seen these little frog statues around Blacksburg. It's an art installation, and each of these frogs marks a place that and calls attention to where Stroubles Creek kind of runs under the streets of Blacksburg. And each frog has a little QR code that you can scan to learn a little bit more about the person the frog is named after. So our tour will touch on 10 of the 16 frogs. And this frog is Philip. He's based off of Philip Price, who was the first African-American student to attend Blacksburg High School. So there's one example. So on our tour, we will discuss sustainability and how individuals can make sustainable choices about water usage, kind of the history of Blacksburg, Stroubles Creek, and why it is important to us in Blacksburg, urban development and pollution and how that impacts the stream, and then just watersheds as a whole and how they work and why they matter. So our path is roughly 1.5 miles, and it starts just next door at the old police station, kind of at that gazebo. The midpoint is at the Moss Art Center, and it ends at the Black House. And this is a map that I made in GIS. I'm kind of proud of it. And it shows the tour. So each frog is numbered and is over here on our key. And you'll notice we're missing number 7 because I made edits and didn't renumber all of the frogs, but that's okay. Yeah, so that's the map. I think that's everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
When are you doing the tour?
So we are taking the Office of Sustainability on a practice tour November 4th, but then in the spring we will conduct a actual tour for like the public. So we will. No, it'll probably just be once. Yeah, probably near Earth Week. Yes. And then we're gonna try to make it a digital form of it so that it'll be like on the internet for people to do later on, since we'll all be graduated and gone from Blacksburg. Yes.
About the internship program more broadly, you all came in, were there students who had been a part of the water group who kind of got you, like, is there like a continuity of projects that gets made like a baton handoff between students who are in this group?
Yes, so the question was if there is a continuity between the previous interns and the current interns, and I'll let Leilani.
Okay. So there is some continuity. The group before me did a completely different project, and so they worked on counting all of the water bottle filling stations on campus and sort of creating a database on that. And so that was more of a standalone project. It didn't need a lot of work from us. But then last year we worked on our Streamkeeper program, and we're trying to make this more of a like yearly long lasting thing. And so this will be a program that will be handed down with the interns, just like sort of maintaining it in addition to their own projects. So some projects are like a one-off standalone, you do it in the year and then it's done, and other projects will be handed down. Yeah. Okay.
Is there any kind of like, can you kind of just give us some background on how healthy Stroubles Creek is? I mean, you know, the things underground so much. I don't think a lot of residents realize they're even on top of the thing when they're walking over it. Can you give us just kind of a broad overview of you know, where the creek is?
That's probably a more of me. And, in a short answer, no, not really. And it also, it depends on season, day, if something, an illicit discharge has happened recently or not. It is a very variable question. We have, TMDL, so total maximum daily load for sediment. So we can only discharge a certain amount of sediment every single day. We are required to adhere to through the Department of Environmental Quality. So as long as we're below that number, we are considered healthy and safe.
Also, to add to that, I did do a research project on the duck pond last semester. And that was during the dredging project that was going on. So we were taking samples before, during, and then the new students are doing the after sampling. But when we were taking samples, the water quality of the duck, we did wet branch and main branch, and then also the outflow of duck pond. And it was all pretty good. My professor said that duck pond is actually like a healthy pond. There are times like during the summer and stuff like that where there's a lot of algae buildup, but overall the duck pond is pretty healthy. And I even like recommend, I was like, oh, what if we added a fountain to the duck pond to increase oxygenation and stuff like that? And she was like, it's actually not necessary. So overall it's pretty good. And I do think that the dredging project is going to help also because it got all that sediment out of there. So. All right, if you have any more questions, we do have an email up there that the office can answer for you guys. Thanks.
And just as a little thank you, I want to present each of you with a sustainable Blacksburg bag. So that you'll have memories of Blacksburg wherever.
Thank you.
These are upcycled tokens. They were specifically for 2020.